Hi, it's Brian. This is the awards contender, and recently I put out a video, the top 10 best Oscar nominations at the 95th Academy Awards, and yeah, now it's time to talk what I think were the worst Oscar nominations at the most recent ceremony. Now let me preface this list by saying I don't necessarily hate these nominees, I don't necessarily think they're terrible, they're just the ones I'm not a big fan of and I think could have easily been replaced by other movies. Like the last top 10 video, I have 3 rules. No winners pop up in this list. So no, you're not going to see Jamie Lee Curtis in Best Supporting Actress. Also, no category will ever be repeated, and no film will be repeated. And for each of my picks, I will give you the film I would have rather seen nominated than the one that got in. Are you ready? Here we go. Number 10, Best Adapted Screenplay, Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, Rooster, take it easy!
Sir, Dagger 2 is re-engaging.
Alright, now hit your target and come home.
Alright, so Top Gun Maverick is a fantastic movie. I'm so happy it got into Best Picture, got some well-deserved nominations in the tech categories. This movie wowed me, it thrilled me when I saw it in May of 2022, but when I walked out of the theater, I don't know about you, I wasn't really thinking about its screenplay. Yes, the structure of the movie is solid, the dialogue scenes often ring true, are well done, well acted, but I do feel like Top Gun Maverick has enough action sequences in it that adapted screenplay just feels like a weird category to put this movie in, especially at the Oscars. There were so many wonderful films last year, many of which didn't get a single Oscar nod that could have been nominated in Best Adapted Screenplay, and they give it to Top Gun Maverick? Yeah, that nomination is not my favorite, even though I do love the movie. I would take out Top Gun Maverick and Best Adapted Screenplay and replace it with Bones and All, which would have given that incredible film at least that one Oscar nod. Number 9, Best Animated Feature, The Sea Beast.
Drakemore's thick with monsters, but don't worry. There's one of them things within a mile of us.
Oh, Sensei.
I would say the Best Animated Feature Film category at the Academy Awards goes up and down throughout the years. I did think we had a fantastic lineup this past year with Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. That was a very creative film. Turning Red was another great Pixar movie. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was spectacular. And then Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio winning. Like, this was a great animated feature film category at the 95th Academy Awards. The only film here I found to be kind of lackluster was The Sea Beast, which is streaming on Netflix. Like, it's perfectly fine. I gave it like a middle-of-the-road review. It's not a bad movie. It's not a terrible way to spend 90 minutes. I'm sure many kids have loved it. But I don't know, it just felt kind of lesser than, especially these other 4 much better movies. It had kind of a quiet release. I had never even heard of it on Netflix, and then when I finally got around to watching it after the Oscar nominations had come out, I just kind of shrugged. I was like, okay. It's got some pretty animation, some good voice work, but yeah, The Sea Beast, I would say, didn't have to get in here. There were much better options, I would say, of 2022 animated movies. Wendell and Wild, I think, would have been a good choice here, but the number 1 film I would choose to replace The Sea Beast here is Richard Linklater's Apollo 10½. That was an amazing movie, wonderful animation, great storytelling. I would have put that one in here over The Sea Beast. Number 8, Best Costume Design, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, stop!
Wow!
Okay, so again, this is not a nomination I necessarily hate, it's just not quite at the level, I think, of the other 4 films in this category. I, of course, love Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm very happy it won 7 Academy Awards, but there were a couple categories, like I questioned if it had to be there. The first one is Original Song, and then the other one is Costume Design. Some of the things Michelle Yeoh and Stephanie Hsu wear in many of those kind of fantastical sequences are great, so this is not a bad nomination. I just don't think it's quite at the level of a Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, Babylon, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Like, if Everything Everywhere All at Once had missed out here, I would not have been crying about it. Again, there are some wonderful films last year that did not get into the Oscars at all that could have gotten at least 1 or 2 technical nominations, and in this category of costume design, in this case, I would take out Everything Everywhere All at Once and replace it with The Woman King, which has astonishing costumes all throughout that film and should have shown up somewhere on Oscar nominations morning. Number 7, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, All Quiet on the Western Front. Okay, so like Everything Everywhere All at Once, this was another movie I adored last year. It made my top 5 favorites of 2022. All Quiet on the Western Front is a dynamite movie. It is so fantastic. I love the screenplay, the direction, the performances, the cinematography. Like, this movie got tons and tons of Oscar nominations, well deserved. But there were maybe 2 categories this movie got into that it didn't necessarily have to. One would be visual effects, I would argue. And then the big one for me is makeup and hairstyling. I don't know. Makeup and hairstyling for All Quiet on the Western Front, it just seems like a little bit of a reach. There are moments here and there where the main character has a pretty stunning makeup job on his face, on his body. But when it comes to like the hairstyling of the characters, and for the most part, there's not a lot of makeup effects in this movie. Like, I just don't think in this category, the work in All Quiet on the Western Front was impressive enough to get in here when there are better choices. And again, this movie got into so many categories. If it had missed makeup and hairstyling, I think we all would have been okay. Now, I talk about on the channel all the time how the Academy rejects horror. They really don't nominate it for much year to year. I do wish they took this genre more seriously, because in Best Makeup and Hairstyling, they should have nominated over All Quiet on the Western Front, X, which came out earlier in the year, and that made my top 10 list, a tie with Pearl, the prequel. I think the makeup effects in X are extraordinary, so much so, for the majority of the movie, I actually thought I was watching 2 older people. It wasn't until later that I realized that these were 2 younger actors made up to look older, and it is just a spectacular job from the makeup artists. I mean, just that alone, and then hairstyling too. It's a period movie. Like, X should have made this category, especially with 5 nominees. All Quiet on the Western Front could have sat this category out. For makeup and hairstyling, I would replace it with X. Number 6, Best Production Design, Avatar: The Way of Water.
Look, I got nothing. I got no plan. But I can protect this family. That I can do.
I really enjoyed the new Avatar film. It is a visual feast unlike any other movie that came out in 2022. That Oscar win for Best Visual Effects was obvious and well-deserved and fantastic. It absolutely should have won that. And I was happy to see it get into Best Sound and Best Picture, but the one nomination it got, like, I don't know about this one. When it comes to the Avatar movies, so much of what we're looking at is visual effects that I wonder, like, where do the visual effects end and where does the production design begin? So much incredible technical craft goes into the making of these Avatar movies. I am not going to say that there's like no production design going on here, but I don't know, the VFX takes such center stage, especially in the sequel, that I don't think it needed to be nominated for Best Production Design. I think there were other worthier films to get in here. Again, many great movies that did not get a single Oscar nod. The Woman King would have been a good choice here, but my number 1 pick for Best Production Design to get in over Avatar: The Way of Water would have been The Northman. I know this one came out early in the year and it didn't take the box office by storm by any means, but I do think The Northman should have gotten at least 2 nominations in the technical categories. I'm thinking cinematography, and I also would have given it production design. Like, the art direction, the look of these sets is spectacular in this movie. It would have been a very worthy Best Cinematography nomination, and I would have loved to have seen it replace Avatar: The Way of Water to get that production design nomination. Number 5, Best Original Score, The Fabelmans.
Oh my god. Oh, what have I done?
It pains me to put this one on the list because, of course, I am a huge fan of John Williams. He has composed like 10, 15 of my favorite movie scores of all time, many of them for Steven Spielberg. But as of late, some of his scores for Spielberg have not been as memorable. I'm thinking first of The Post from 2017, and I think his score to The Fabelmans is even less memorable. As I watched the film the first time, I didn't even notice there was any music in it. Like, it didn't really come to life at all in the way his work often does in Spielberg films. Now, you're not going to want to score like E.T. or Jaws or Raiders of the Lost Ark in a quieter movie like The Fabelmans, I get that, but I love this movie. I have watched it 3 times, and the score is just kind of there. It's fine, but definitely not Academy Award nomination worthy. I do think as of late, Williams gets a lot of his Oscar nominations from name recognition over the quality of the work, I would say. I think there were so many more amazing scores that should have gotten in here over The Fabelmans. My choice would be The Batman. Another one of my favorite films of the year. I think The Batman should have done even better at the Academy Awards. It should have gotten into Best Cinematography for sure, and it should have shown up in Best Original Score. I would say it's only second to Babylon for 2022, and it should be here over, I would say, The Fabelmans. Number 4, Best Actress, Ana de Armas, Blonde.
Miss Monroe, it's time!
Alright, so here's a big one. Best Actress. I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions about this one. I think we could all get behind Cate Blanchett in Tar and Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once. When you get to the other 3 nominees for Best Actress at the 95th Academy Awards, there are definitely thoughts to be had. I would have changed this category up by more than just one person. Andrea Riseborough is really good in To Leslie, but the way she got that nomination is still kind of suspect all these months later. Doesn't sit well with me, and I'm sure many others. Like, she kind of went through the back door on that one. It was just like the biggest shocker on Oscar nominations morning. I think my face said it all. And then Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, like, I'm fine on that nomination. I love the movie, and I adore her as an actress. It's not one of my favorite performances of hers in the last 20 plus years. But yeah, I would say my least favorite acting Oscar nomination at the last ceremony was Ana de Armas in Blonde. Not because she gives a bad performance. Like, she is giving that role her all. Marilyn Monroe, I'm sure, is a very difficult role to play, and she is not messing around in this movie. Like, she is crying, she is screaming, she has some emotionally resonant moments, and there's not a section of the movie where she looks to be phoning it in. The big issue here is that I think Blonde as a whole, as a movie, just doesn't work. It is a slog. It is a tough, tough watch. And I felt by the halfway mark, no matter how good de Armas is in the movie, her work kind of gets lost in this jumbled narrative that goes on and on and on. I mean, I do think there's something to be said about a movie being bad enough that the performances in it, no matter how good they may be, just maybe don't get into the Oscars, especially when there's so much competition. When there are so many excellent performances in good or great or spectacular movies, like, why are we putting in a performance that's in a movie most people agree is not very good? Again, I do think Ana de Armas is the best thing about Blonde. If there was going to be one Oscar nod for that movie, Best Actress for her makes sense. But when you have Mia Goth in Pearl, when you have Viola Davis in The Woman King, And when you have Danielle Deadwyler in Till, 3 performances I think are better than De Armas, and 3 films that are miles better than Blonde, like I just don't think that De Armas' performance should make the cut over those other 3. So, at the end of the day, in Best Actress at the Oscars, I would take out Ana de Armas in Blonde and replace her with Danielle Deadwyler in Till. Number 3, Best Film Editing, Elvis.
Never met anyone like you.
I hope not.
So I don't know if I ever explicitly said this on the channel, but my least favorite of the 10 Best Picture nominees was Elvis. I saw it the weekend it opened with my mom in the theater. I liked it, it was fine. I really hated that Tom Hanks performance. That was a weird low point of the movie. The other low point, I would say, when I watched this movie the first time, I have since watched it twice, I do think the editing is often overdone throughout Elvis. Baz Luhrmann is known for very fast editing in his movies, like Moulin Rouge, which I love. That one, it works for me, but so often in Elvis, I don't know about you, I was like, enough. Slow it down. Like, we don't need this super fast cutting all the time. So yeah, I would not have nominated Elvis in film editing. Costume design, Austin Butler for Best Actor, great. But film editing, no. I would have given that to many other movies I loved last year. And if you wanted to replace Elvis with another film that also has some fast editing, some stylish editing, I would go with Babylon. That movie is also cut in a way that's sometimes noticeable for the viewer, but I think the mix of fast and slow editing in Babylon very much serves the story it's telling, but I feel like in Elvis it's often too much and it's overdone. I think the editing in Babylon is much better, so I would replace Elvis with Babylon in Best Film Editing. Number 2, Best Cinematography, Empire of Light.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Okay, so here is one of the big head-scratcher Oscar nominations of 2022. I mean, I guess not that much of a head-scratcher. It is Roger Deakins. The great Roger Deakins, who is kind of a god of cinematography at this point. He's been nominated so often throughout the decades. He's won 2 cinematography Oscars recently, but Empire of Light? No. I mean, the movie isn't very good to begin with. It's awkward, it's stiff, it tries to do too many things. It's just kind of a miss for director Sam Mendes. This movie actually kicked off my Oscar Fiasco series last May, and I talked about then why I don't think the cinematography nomination is earned here. It has a couple memorable moments, a scene of fireworks at night, a few fancy shots here and there that I liked, but I just don't think it's at the level of 5, 6, 7 other movies of 2022 that should have gotten into this category instead. I mean, I'm okay with Bardo being there. That was the other movie in this category that just got the lone cinematography Oscar nomination. I wasn't too hot on Bardo, but it does have some beautiful cinematography all throughout that movie. Like, I can live with that one, but Empire of Light is just too slight of a movie without enough impressive cinematography to merit that Oscar nomination. Again, so many other films should have gotten in here, especially Top Gun Maverick, which won a ton of prizes at the beginning of the season. Like, that nomination looked like it was going to be a sure thing, and then it missed on Oscar nominations morning. That was really dumb. That should have gotten in here instead. And then The Batman, The Northman, Nope, Pearl. I could go on and on. There are so many titles I think that should have shown up in cinematography over Empire of Light. If I had to pick one, it would be Top Gun Maverick. Alright, and that takes me to my number 1 choice. What was the worst nomination at the 95th Academy Awards? This was an easy choice for me. I didn't have to think too long about this one. It was definitely the biggest groan of Oscar nominations morning, and is just so totally silly, ridiculous, shouldn't be there. I think the worst Oscar nomination of 2022 is Best Original Song, Applause, from Tell It Like a Woman.
Val, now all we have to do is we've got to seat your arm where the wire went into your wound.
I know it's practically signed into the Academy contract that we have to nominate Diane Warren every year for something. Like, it wouldn't even surprise me at the '96 Academy Awards coming up here if they nominate Diane Warren for a song and a movie that don't even exist. I mean, we're kind of there at this point. Like, they will nominate Diane Warren for anything. For any song, for any movie. If her name is on the short list for something, she gets into the final 5. And I'm kind of sick of it. Like, how many nominations does this woman need to feel complete? Like, she had a few good ones earlier in her career, some great movies. She should have won at least 2 or 3 by now. At this point, it's becoming kind of a charade. The song is fine, it's nothing special. There were many other better choices to get in here, and I will give you 3. Ciao Papa from Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Stand Up from Till, and Still Holding My Hand from Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical. Any of those 3 would have been a much better choice to have gotten into Best Original Song. Applause from Tell It Like a Woman? No. That should not have gotten into the Oscars, and it's easily, by far, sorry Diane, the worst nomination at the 95th Academy Awards.